All right, we are going to do HED 241 biostats, Part B, descriptive statistics, Section 11, standard deviation. So in Section 10, we talked about variability and what it is. Make sure you understand what it is going into Section 11 and standard deviation. So the standard deviation is the most frequently used measure of variability. Okay, it's also known as the spread or dispersion, and the symbols are an uppercase S italicized, which is for the population, so the standard deviation of a population, and a lowercase s italicized, which is standard deviation for the sample. You'll also see it as SD or an italicized SD. Okay, so what is it? It's a statistic that provides an overall measurement of how much participant scores differ from the mean score of their group. Okay, so you have the mean score of your test. Your standard deviation is how much participant score, or how much y'all score, differs from the mean score of the group. Okay, so if I said the average or the mean score on the test was 75, then we would look at what the standard deviation, or how much your scores differed from that mean score of 75. So it's a special type of average of the deviation of the scores from their mean. Okay, the way I always think about it is, how far out did the scores go from the mean? Okay, so what's the difference between what the score is and the mean? That's what you're looking at with standard deviation. So the more spread out participant scores are around the mean, the larger the standard deviation. Okay, so another way to think about this also is, the larger the range, which we covered in Section 10, the larger the standard deviation. Let's look at some examples, see if that helps. Okay, so for the first example, scores for group A, 0, 0, 5, 5, 10, 15, 15, 20, 20. Okay, the mean score for this is 10. Okay, the standard deviation is 7.45. Okay, for example 2, your mean score is 10 again. Okay, your standard deviation is 1.49. Okay, so notice, greater variability, larger the S. This one is from 0 to 20. This one is from 8 to 12. Okay. Here, everyone made the same score on the test. Everyone made a 10 out of 10. Perfect scores. Okay. The mean is 10 because everyone made 10. That's still the average. There is no standard deviation. So no variability. When the scores are all the same, there is no S. Okay. So when you look at these, right, all three, let's talk about these, each group. So A, B, and C. Each group has a mean of 10, right? So the mean does not change. It's 10 for all of them. But when you look, group A has more variability than group B or C. So A has the most, 0 to 20. Group B, 8 to 12, okay? Group C has no variability. Okay, so A has the most. It has more variability than B or C. B has more than C, and C has none. Okay. One thing I want you to know right now is, I'm not asking you to figure out how you compute the standard deviation. Okay, that's not something we're talking about right now at all. I want you to simply know what it is and how you use it. Okay, so remember your normal curve we covered earlier in Section B, or Part B, sorry, one of the earlier sections in Part B. Okay, so about 2/3 of the cases, so 68%, lie within one standard deviation unit of the mean in a normal distribution. Okay, within one standard unit means one unit on both sides of the mean. Let me show you. Okay, here, your mean is 70. Okay, your standard deviation is 10. Okay, so one standard deviation unit would be 10. So from 70 to 80 and 60 to 70. Okay, So 68% of the class, if the average was a 70 and the standard deviation's a 10, would have scored between a 60 and an 80. Okay, let me say that one more time. If your average is a 70, okay, your standard deviation is a 10. That means to the right of 70, you go 10, which is 80. And to the left of 70, you go 10, which is 60. That's your standard deviation. 68% of the class would have scored between a 60 and an 80 when it is a normal curve and the standard deviation is 10. Okay. Another example, if your standard deviation is 5, okay, so on that test, the average was still a 70, but the standard deviation was 5. 68% would have scored between a 65 and a 75. So how would you say something, a statement about means and standard deviation? This is how you would say it. Group A has a higher mean equals 67.89, with a standard deviation of 8.77, than Group B, which had a mean of 60.23 and a standard deviation of 8.54. I'm not asking you again how to calculate the standard deviation. Mean, yes, you need to know for your exam how to calculate the mean. Standard deviation, I want you to simply know how to use it, how to state it, how to apply it, not how to calculate it. Section 11 questions, make sure you're able to go through these and look at them, and then pay attention to your assignment. Couldn't remember that word. Your assignment for your exact questions that you need to do. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a good week.